So I'm going to show you a couple of couple of examples here. If you guys come in and see this on your computer, it's going to be a very, very bad day. This is the actual CryptoLocker virus. This is a particular screenshot from a computer. So what happens is when your computer gets hit with ransomware, it's usually because you opened up something from one of those previous emails that I showed you, a fake email. You clicked on something. At first, you might not ever see it happen. You say, oh, that was weird, and then you go on about your business. And then it detonates its package, and it starts going about the business of encrypting every file on your computer, but not just your computer, anything your computer is attached to. If you have USB thumb drives, your camera with pictures of your wedding, whatever, it's going to start encrypting everything it can get a hold of. It's very, very destructive. And they'll put a timer on here. They'll put some kind of they'll put some kind of a deadline, and then $300 is what they want here. Here's another example of it. Yep, 55 hours left. They're very nice, good customer service. They give easy to understand instructions on what to do. But, oh man, thank you, Mr. Bad Guy. All I have to do is just click here. If these instructions don't work, use these instructions. If these instructions don't work, use these instructions. This is bad news. The only way to recover for this is delete everything you have and start over. So it's very destructive. Or you could pay the ransom. If you have something there that's non-recoverable, I'll tell you a story here in a few minutes.
Doesn't mean you're going to get it back.
That is right. The FBI tells us to instruct people never to pay the ransom, but I'll tell you a story in a couple minutes.
We got ours back.
Some people do. So, guys, you're not going to see this happen. The FBI tells us that the average time it takes to detect a breach is 14 months before anybody knows what's happening. So they're on your network, they're doing what they want to. And this is for organizations that have some method to detect it, some kind of network diagnostics or procedures to look and see what's going on. The SMB market a lot of times is never going to see this happen. There's daily attacks, those advanced persistent threats we talked about. No one has it covered. The number one thing that I'm told by IT guys, not the good ones, is I'll be in a meeting, usually with a business owner, and we're proposing some solution. The IT guy will sit there, usually something about like this. I don't think we need that. We got it covered. We got it covered. No, you don't. I was in charge of a big network, and it took 4 of us and an outside company to constantly check. In fact, we ended up getting hacked. I'll tell you a really quick story. At my former life, we had 2 computer programmers that updated websites. We had 2 external web-facing servers. They're running Windows 2003, and I said to our owners, we have got to get these upgraded, you guys. These operating systems are old. They're 10 years old. They're fine. Well, one of our programmers came in and said, God, did you see take a look at what's on this drive. Well, some guy that called himself Borlak had put a bunch of files, and when you hit our page, it redirected to an intranet page that said, ha, 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 ha. Sorry, IT guys, you've been hacked. And I mean, my face turned white. My colleague's face turned white. We freaked out. Luckily for us, it was just a guy who was doing it just because he could. We didn't lose any data, but let me tell you, we got the money like that, bought 2 new servers, upgraded everything, patched our firewall, did all the stuff we're supposed to do. So some people learn the lesson in an easy way, but most of the time it's a hard lesson to learn. All is not lost. All is not lost. I'm getting to the good parts here. All right. With that said, the traditional mindset has for years, protect the gates, brace the door, put more locks, fences, let's protect ourselves from the outside, firewalls, passwords. Really, at the end of the day, they don't work. Now, there are regulatory compliances in place. PCI, maybe everybody's heard of PCI. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these slides, but it is worth mentioning that there are standards in place out there that are enforceable that make you, especially if you take credit cards in the case of PCI, they make you do these procedures to secure your data, your traffic, and customers' credit card data. I just put some dollar amounts to things. $50 to $90 per cardholder data. Be a lot more fines if you end up getting hit. Example we talked about before, Home Depot, $250 million on lawsuits if you don't follow these standards. HIPAA, of course, is a big one. Patient records are really valuable. Does anybody know why patient records, health information, is much more valuable than credit card data? The reason is it's time to live. If I lose my credit card and it gets picked up in a parking lot, somebody makes a transaction, my credit card company is going to call me and go, David, were you in Las Vegas? No, I'm sitting here in my living room. Credit card transaction is ended. That's it for the thief. That credit card's no longer valid, it's dead. Patient information has the ability to absolutely steal someone's identity. Social security numbers, all that, you can open up bank accounts with health information, so it's become a huge, huge target. And it's becoming big business for security guys like me to come in and help healthcare organizations become fully HIPAA compliant so they don't get giant fines. Down at the bottom here, this is just one story. There's tons of stories. They have kind of a wall of shame on the internet that you can look at hospitals and organizations that have been hit and what's happened to them. St. Joseph's paid $2.14 million because they lost a USB drive, and then later on, they found that there were 38,000 patient records that could just be searched on Google. Imagine that IT guy's face. All right, the moment we've all been waiting for. What can I do to protect myself, my clients, my vendors, my family? These are the three categories of what we call the coverage model. And this, by the way, I love this. When I learned about this, I felt it really does cover everything in life. Your house, your car, real assets, not just data assets. Prevention, detection, and response. If you're going to take notes, now's the time. Prevention. We're all online. Everybody has a website. This is something everyone has to have to conduct business. Perimeter defenses, next generation firewalls. These are the firewalls, next gen firewalls if you don't know. This is the stuff that has built-in tools to detect and watch your network, not just traditional firewalls just have a list. They're like a doorman. You know, if you're not on the list, you don't get in. Next generation firewalls actually tracks where it's coming from, what it's doing. It tracks your packets all the way in. It's what you need to do. I won't get real technical on that, but make sure your firewall appliance is next generation. Encryption lets you off a lot of hooks, especially for HIPAA compliant organizations. If you lose a laptop that's not encrypted, you must report it to the Office of Civil Rights. If you don't and it's found, big fines. But if it was encrypted, it's useless. It's just like ransomware, right? Your computer's encrypted, nobody can do it. Same principle here. So anybody that travels a lot, which I'm sure is a few people in this room, encrypt your laptop. And we can ask us about that later on. Passwords. I mentioned this before. Make them strong and change them regularly. Bad guys can break your password if it's weak so fast. You'd be blown away at how fast we can get into your computer if you have a cruddy password. Of course, don't forget physical security, cameras, locks, sensors, etc. Detection. I will admit that the industry is a little slow to react to this, but they have spent a tremendous amount of money on it. I won't mention specific manufacturers because there's a lot of them that have improved drastically over the last few years. This is very, very important. If something gets into the network, you need to be able to realize something is in the network and do something about it. So intrusion detection is important. Run real-time antivirus, and virus is old. I really don't like using the word virus anymore, it's so old. Malware. Malware is where it's at. Anti-malware software. You want to look at logs, conduct regular scans of your network, monitor and manage privileged accounts. Privileged accounts, these are the guys like me that have God rights in your network. You better be aware of what your IT guys are doing, or people with sensitive accounts. You need to track that. Create procedures, cross-check, have more than one person look at this because it's really a monumental task. You can't just have one guy looking at it. It's all about visibility with detection. And finally, response. I put that this is probably the most important because sooner or later, somebody given enough time will probably get into your network because there's a lot of very talented, very highly educated hackers out there. And if you get a target painted on you and you're not aware of what's happening, given enough time, they'll get in. So you need to create a good procedure to react to that event if, heaven forbid, it ever happens. For example, Susie gets a virus on her computer. My gosh, yank that right off the network. She realizes she has a virus. Disconnect it immediately before it spreads. Report the incident. Remember that story about the fake phone calls? Every one of those employees did report to the director of IT. I got a weird phone call. At least they reported it. Can make it, make people aware of what's happening. If you see something, what do they say? See something, say something, right? This is critical right here. Every organization should have a backup and disaster recovery plan. And I mean a real backup and disaster recovery plan. What to do if the building burns down. Can I even recover? Let's say you are doing the right thing, meaning you are backing up your data. You have tapes. Hopefully you don't have tapes. That's pretty old, but a lot of organizations still do. You have some method of backup. But can you recover from it? Have you ever practiced recovering from it? That's right. I knew I had a story to tell you guys. So a client of mine, who's actually become a friend now, a little rocky when we first started out, but he has a friend and business associate in Canada that was hit with ransomware. And I mean the bad kind. So he went, oh gosh, we're infected. Well, his IT guys, what'd they say? Dude, screw them, don't pay the ransom, we have got this. This was a complete stoppage of business. Not just his computer, the entire network was shut down. They tried for 48 straight hours. And long story short, they realized they could not recover. They had no valid recovery point. So he paid the ransom to the tune of $17,000. And lucky for him, they gave him their data back. Gave him the key to decrypt everything, and he was back in business. And you better believe he created a disaster recovery plan after that. And he probably had a few words for his IT department. So this is real critical, folks. Over the years, we've made this all about technology, but really, it's about people. You need to educate your employees, inform them of changes and risk. There's always changes, there's always something scary out there. Changes in policies or procedures. And if you don't enforce policies, especially password policies and things like that that directly affect the security of your network, then you might as well not even have a policy. So you need to have good policies and then enforce them. With that, thank you guys very much for your attention.